Hello and welcome to Alpha Art Gallery's 2024 Artist Interview Series. My name is Rebecca Nicosia, and today I'm joined by Cheryl Bomba, a photographer from Mercer County, New Jersey. Her works are currently on view for Alpha's 2024 Winter Photography Exhibition, The Art of Perspective. Cheryl, thank you for joining me today. I'm excited to get to know you more as an artist and as a person. So to start, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for asking me. I'm very honored and excited to be doing this.
Of course, we're so excited to have you. So, first off, please tell me a bit about the pieces that you've submitted to this exhibition.
The pieces I have in this current exhibition are a mix of works that are a little older and newer works. The older works were completed using my DSLR, and the more recent works are using my iPhone. And I just recently retired from my full-time job. I retired in June of 23. So except for the last 6 months, I really didn't have a lot of time to dedicate to photography itself. It was something that I needed to fit in, not much time for planning and going out to shoot a specific idea. So I would say all of those images were made when I was spending time with family and friends doing interesting things.
Okay, right. So it's my understanding that when capturing a shot, you look for the little and natural moments in life. Where in these moments would you say that you get your inspiration?
What do I love? I love art. I love architecture. I love art expressed through architecture, as many of us do in my photography community. I love abandoned. I love that arrested state of ruin. And again, things that appear as art in the environment that might not be obvious. I really gravitate toward those things, and they're often the subjects of the works that I personally like the best. And very early on, in terms of inspiration, my very first photography friend, Rodney Miller, he's a Bucks County photographer, really inspired me. He's an abstract photographer. And in one particular body of work, he was really focusing on incorporating these unreal elements into real landscapes. And I really connected with that work. And in fact, there was one particular photo that I was very drawn to, and I recognized the landscape where that image was made. And I went there to see what he saw, and I didn't. And I talked to him later and I said, I was looking, for this element. Where was it? And he said it was never there. So early in my journey, that was really exciting to me. And I recognized that that was something I wanted to do too. And he was really very enormously helpful and open to helping me achieve what I wanted to achieve. And I really like to bring my viewers into that liminal space between realism and impossibilism. One of my favorite images in the show is I Rise, because when it's hanging, I just love to listen to the viewers' comments and discussion in terms of how it was completed. And I would say their thoughts and ideas are almost always technical in terms of how that came to be. I must have used a particular lens. I must have used an app where I knew a plane would be flying overhead at that particular time. And I really like to listen to those discussions. And one of my favorite questions always is when viewers ask, well, was that real? How did you do that? Because that lets me know that I achieved my personal goal.
Yeah, definitely. That one in particular is very thought-provoking. I had the same thought process as I was first viewing it. I was like, is that an actual shot that she got like that? That's crazy.
When I can provoke that reaction, that makes me the happiest. Then I feel I reach the viewer in the way that I want them to be reached.
Yeah, you take a very unique and creative approach to each piece that you produce. And I feel like you play a lot with elements of perspective and proportion in that aspect. Can you please walk me through your creative process?
So I'm a self-taught photographer. And when I got started, I was practicing for a long time outside of any type of artistic community. So I was kind of, as I developed my process, my workload, my technique, much of that was trial and error. Much of that was looking for free and low cost tools and then really trying to maximize them. Reverse engineering things that I saw and I really liked in the work of others. And then either making that my own, or if it's not necessarily a path I followed, it was just another skill and tool that I had for future work. I'm definitely not a gear girl at all. I'm definitely not a technical photographer. And to borrow a phrase from a friend, I'm much less of a photographer and much more of an artist who uses a camera.
Okay.
I think that describes me the best. I definitely know, because I am in a community with very highly skilled technical photographers, my technique and process are inelegant. In one of my critique groups, I said if we wanted to have a more lighthearted meeting, we should do a drinking game, and every time I made a contribution contradictory edit. People could take a drink, except we would need an ambulance waiting at the end of that game. Because again, these are just techniques and workflows that I developed on my own. There probably are more efficient ways, and I'm kind of learning as I go along. But hopefully the results hide the fact that there's a lot of inelegance in terms of how the images came to be. And also, I'm really not much of a planner. And kind of that comes from just life in general, having not much time to really devote specifically to photography. I look at an image, I just study it and play with it and see what it becomes. And a while ago, I had read an anecdote about a chainsaw sculptor, and people are asking him about his work. And he says the wood tells him what it wants to be. And I really think that describes how I approach an image. It tells me what it wishes to be. And if it's not communicated, patient, and I can wait for it.
That's a very cool approach. I feel like it's not traditional, but it's almost a little bit more intriguing. You get to add your own fun twist on it, you know?
And that's what I enjoy doing.
Your works have a very like painterly quality to them, which is a nice callback to that definition that you provided us with before. Most especially the portrait outlook and the photo still life with tulips, which is one of my favorites personally, because both works are illustrated at first. How did these works come to be? Something a little bit more painterly looking.
It's funny that you use that particular word, because I remember the first time when I was getting started in photography that I heard the term painterly applied to a photograph. And it was a National Geographic article about the photos of the year. And the judges for that competition were describing each photograph. And one that I was really drawn to was described by the judges painterly. And, again, practicing on my own, not really knowing about photography. I had not heard that term before. But when I did, I knew that I had the vocabulary to describe how I wanted my images to look. And I knew that that would really help me transform things that were ordinary into things that were more extraordinary. And both Still Life with Tulips and Outlook had very pedestrian beginnings. They were not necessarily something that would stand out as something that I would follow through with in print, but I think using that painterly quality really helped me move them out of the ordinary and into something that I could share with viewers.
Well, that's very cool. It's a very different approach, again, not as traditional, but it just makes it all the more, intriguing, and it just pulls viewers in even more, So with your background as a special education teacher, how has being both a professional educator and an artist shaped both your life and art?
Being a special education teacher, I worked with people with autism for 40 years, up until June of 23. My career as a special education teacher was essential to my journey as a photographer. I would not be a photographer if I was not a special education teacher first. Children with autism, by definition, have challenges with communication, especially the little ones. They might not be using verbal language, for example, at the typical age. And in the early 90s, early 2000s, my district had the idea that we wanted to help children communicate with their families. What's the first question parents ask when kids come home from school? How was school? What did you do? These were children at that time that couldn't necessarily understand or answer the question. And that would be very challenging for parents, especially when their children are smaller. So the district gave every teacher a Polaroid camera and a stack of film. And the idea was that we would take pictures of the kids engaging in their school day, all day, and then we would put them in a little Ziploc bag, send them home in their backpack, and the parents could use those as a jumping off point to communicate about the child's day. If the child was not yet at that level, at least parents could see firsthand what their child was doing in school. And for me, that was a very discouraging process because, I was always an artist, and I really wanted to take a good photograph because we saw the children engage and connected with the activities that they were doing. We saw them relating to adults and classmates. And with a Polaroid camera, as you can imagine, the odds were not in your favor that you would get a good picture. And those pictures, they showed the activity, but they really highlighted more of the students' challenges in their day as opposed to their connections. It was something that we were trying, but I always found it very discouraging. At the end of that year, a colleague was putting together memory books for her kids, all the things that they had done in September, October, November, etc., to the end of the year. And her portraits and pictures of her students were stunning. They were, gallery quality portraits because she really captured her students' spark and connection with their environment and their engagement. And I complimented her. I said, I had no idea you were such a talented photographer. My gosh, I wish that I, could do this, but I could never do this. And she said, oh, I'm not a photographer. I just have a digital camera. I said, what's a digital camera? Because not everybody knew what that was, and very few people had them.
Yeah.
And she showed me her camera, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to get one of these. And this was in June. My birthday is in July. And my husband always asked me, what do you want for your birthday? And I said, hey, my friend had this digital camera. He said, what's that? And I described it to him. And he got me my first digital camera, probably about 2001. And that was the tool that just made sense to me. The ability to take as many photographs as you want, and you got that immediate feedback. And that really helped me get these great pictures of my kids and communicate to the parents, what their kids were really like during the school day, and really highlight all their connections. And again, not highlight the challenges that they have in daily life. And then from the moment I got that camera, that is just all I did. I disliked film photography. I could see the image, I could compose the image, I couldn't capture the image. I was the photographer that would overexpose it, underexpose it. When photography was only film, that was really the only way you could practice photography. I wish I could be good at it. Again, I could look at an image and compose it, and my result was just not adequate at all. Every wrong thing you could do, I did, and it really wasn't an enjoyable process. So I just focused on other things. But really, the path to photography for me was the digital camera. And the path to the digital camera was my students with autism. And for probably the first 10 years, most of my work was portraits of kids.
That's such a lovely origin story. It's really nice also that you really can see the evolution of technology and how it's helped to make it easier to get into creative fields like that because of the evolution from film to digital photography. So that's a very cool little insight.
I have a pair of images that I love because one is a student and it is a Polaroid picture, and another is a photograph from the same school year. So really just a few months later, and the students were outside on the playground, and it was probably approaching that 3 o'clock hour in the colder weather where you just get that beautiful winter light and those diagonal shadows. And I have a picture of him out on the playground. And, people ask, what treatment or therapy did he have between picture one and picture two? I said, no, it's the same student. It's just the tool was able to capture, what I wanted to capture in him.
Right. Well, that's such a lovely story. Thank you so much for sharing. Could you tell us a little bit about what's next? Are there any works or shows or personal projects that you're currently working on and want to share?
Oh my gosh, I always have a number of shows going on. I have a show at Lower Bucks Community College. That's a group show. It's a fundraiser for the college. It's called Show Some Heart, and all the works are priced at $150, and that funds scholarships for students in need at the college. I have a number of online shows. Since COVID, galleries are reopening again. It had been kind of 2-3 year lapse without in-gallery shows for a while, and I think those are just returning. So again, I have a lot of shows going on. And I really spent the past 6 months traveling. I was in Iceland in July. I'm returning to Iceland in a couple weeks, hopefully to catch the Northern Lights.
Oh, that would be beautiful. I can't wait to see those pictures.
Yeah, and again, hoping to do a lot of photography there. And just really, I've been practicing on night photography, long exposure photography, getting prepared. When I went to Iceland in the summer, I'd spent a lot of time practicing on wildlife photography because we went to a puffin colony and I wanted to be ready.
Yeah, you had to capture all of that, I'm sure.
Absolutely. And you always hope to return to these places, but you don't know where life will lead you. So I definitely want to capture these opportunities to the best of my ability.
Well, that's so wonderful. This has been so much fun. I've had so much fun learning more about you as a person and an artist. So thank you so much, Cheryl, for joining me today.
Oh, again, and thank you so much for asking me. Very honored.
We're so excited to watch you as you advance further along in your photography career. So thank you again.
Oh, thank you.